bring our friend Joe Quinata of the Guam Preservation Trust in on the KUAM News Zoom room, where we'll just start first. They're hiring. Let's just start there, Joe, because Lana, plenty of people on the PUA now. It's going to run out, and pretty soon Auntie Lou's going to institute that job search requirement, guys. So what positions are you guys hiring for, Joe?
For a program officer that have knowledge in archaeology, knowledge in Section 106, knowledge in Guam's, detailed knowledge of Guam's heritage.
Oh, yeah, Section 106. Right, Bree? You know Section 106.
Section 106.
That's the one after 105, right?
Exactly.
Right on.
There is actually a Section 105.
I know. I would hope so.
And a Section 104.
Right. Uh-huh. 103 was my favorite.
All the way to 1.
Got it. That's how that works. So, yeah, Guam Preservation Trust is hiring. Also, Manetlu, and I got a message, Catholic Social Services guys. So go to their respective social media feeds, as I believe a lot of these nonprofits have gotten maybe some grant funding or whatever that's opening them up. So get out there, get a job. 924. Joe, but you guys are also doing this really cool certification training with the Guam Preservation Trust. It's an archaeology fieldwork technician certification. Is this the first time this has been offered on island?
It is the first time it's been offered here on Guam. It was planned for 2 years ago, and when we were going to start the course, the archaeologist that was supposed to be the instructor of records got stolen by Palau, so she had to move to Palau, so we couldn't do that. And then pandemic came in, and then we couldn't do that. But now that we're easing up, we want to be able to now get this training, this certification course on the way, because we needed to fill the gap. We needed to provide the skills necessary, the scientific and analytical skills necessary for the cultural resource management firms that come to Guam to do some archaeological survey or studies. They need technicians. Otherwise, they would have to get technicians from off island, and that's going to be costly. So we wanted to build the skills here so that it's not going to cost us an arm and a leg to get a survey done. It's going to provide two things. One is to fulfill that gap, and the other one really is to spark an interest in archaeology here with our local population. The University of Guam offers archaeology program, and so we would like to get our young people to apply for this so that they can, see if this is something they want to pursue in their life. What comes with this course really is a lot of the technical training, and also infused into this course is we call it the community engagement and oral histories. So this is not something that you get at a regular certification course elsewhere. This is part of, our local people know the landscape. Our local people really, and honestly, they can stand the heat out there.
Yeah.
A lot of folks that get hired from the States, there's a big turnover. They can't stand the heat, they go home. With our people here, we can manage that. That's quite easy. So give them the skills, give them the job, and you have a really good outcome.
Joe, we were talking before you came on, and I asked you a question. How many Chamorro archaeologists are there?
On Guam?
Just wherever, on the whole world that you
Maybe
know.
one?
None on island. None on island. One in where? Hawaii?
Yes.
Okay. Where are my Chamorro brothers and sisters at? Let's go go to UOG. Take archaeology.
I believe there is another one that it just came to my head. There's another one in Saipan, so I'm not too sure whether that's confirmed yet. But
Okay.
we're hoping that that person applies for the position that we have.
Okay, so stop the press. It's actually 2 in the whole world, not 1.
Yes,
Our
yes,
bad.
yes. Sorry about that.
No worries, Joe. So we did have a comment here. How do people apply for this great opportunity?
So if you're interested, you can go online at pacificpreservation.org/AFT, Archaeology Fieldwork Technician, AFT. And you go in there and the registration's there. The syllabus, course syllabus is there. The schedule, everything that you need to know about the course is there at that website. And we're working with the University of Guam's Global Learning and Engagement Office. So they're the ones that are going to be certifying these folks. That way, to confirm anything, everybody would head on to University of Guam. They have records of the certified technicians. Yeah, just go there. There are no prerequisites, so you don't have to have a major. You don't have to know much about archaeology. We will provide that to you. We have a real great comprehensive course. We have an instructor of records that has experience in teaching archaeology in Hawaii. He's actually here doing his dissertation on Guam. So we asked him if he can be an instructor of records. I will be also part of the lecture, looking at the local engagement, looking at oral histories, trying to teach our technicians to be able to conduct that so that we can have a well-rounded outcome with the studies that are conducted, whether in the base or outside the base.
Joe, who would this training and who do you think would be interested in taking this training?
So you have 2 people, one that are looking for a job and think that this is a cool job to go out there. We provide the skills. We subsidize the course itself. The course would cost more than $125, but because we're paying for the trust through the National Trust for Historic Preservation funding, we're paying for the instructor. The Guam Preservation Trust is subsidizing a little bit for supplies and stuff like that, but the $125 is really to pay for the certification, the administrative certification process at the University of Guam. We are requesting from CRM firms here in Guam if they can provide scholarship for these students. We already have 2 CRM firms that have agreed to provide scholarship to pay for fees for students that may otherwise cannot afford this. We're asking the community if they would like to sort of help us, partner with us to provide scholarship for the students that come in. It's important to us, to the preservation community, and it's a great opportunity.
Right on. Are there any follow-on job opportunities after the certification class?
We're hoping, because part of the class is really being interned into these, the CRM firms are being asked if they can provide internship, an 8-hour internship to complete this course. And hopefully if they can see these people on the job, they can be able to hopefully take them in after the training is done.
Joe, how many archaeologists do you have on board over there at the Guam Preservation Trust?
None. We used to have 1, but now we don't have any.
How many do you need other than the 1?
We hope to get at least 1 to help us with that discipline in preservation. in historic preservation, in heritage actually altogether, you have 5 different disciplines. You have archaeology, you have architecture, planning, history, and culture, moral culture. And so every time we look at projects, we look at these disciplines and see, do we need to do we need to fill any gaps in these disciplines? So we work with all of that. But we do need at least one archaeologist on board to help us not only with the current work that we have with the trust, but also to help us sort of navigate into the upcoming programmatic agreements, these agreements with the military, because the Guam Preservation Trust is a consulting signatory. We would like to get the expert eye on that. Not that we're not experts, we're all experts in our different way, but it would be nice to get an archaeology perspective into the agreements.
How long have you not had an archaeologist?
Just not a year yet.
Not a year. So like 8 months, 9 months, something like that.
Yeah, about that much, that time.
So having said the list of things that you guys got to do, especially with this programmatic agreement, how has it hampered your mission?
Well, you know, we always, with the Guam Preservation Trust, us being a nonprofit organization, we have a committee. We have a committee of archaeologists on island. We have, and also off island, we have archaeologists that have still kept their interest on Guam, that are in Hawaii, that are in Spain, and that really are in New York. So we consult with these archaeologists that you know, that still have that interest not only with the Guam Preservation Trust, but also especially for the island of Guam. So we have over a dozen of archaeologists that sit in this committee, that actually assist us otherwise.
I mean, Joe, but just like, let's take it outside of Guam. If this was, Palau Preservation Trust or Hawaii Preservation Trust or Idaho Preservation Trust, and they didn't have an archaeologist, just how big of a deal would it be?
It would be, because again, archaeology is one of the disciplines in historic preservation. It is a big deal. Just like an architectural historian is a big deal if we're going to preserve certain structures that we feel that is important and matter to us. Same as archaeology, there are areas that cultural resource areas on Guam that really matter to us, and we want to be able to get the technical skills from the archaeologists to sort of navigate with us on trying to translate everything that's underground into something that the public can relate to, something that is relevant to the public. Because many times archaeologists are archaeologists. They actually provide the reports, but it's all archaeological jargons.
Yeah.
What the trust does is it takes that and translates that into something that the public can easily read and the public can relate to.
How closely do you guys work with the State Historic Preservation Office?
Very close. The same board from the review board is actually the board of the trust. So there's really no reason for a gap.
All right.
They can't say we don't know what they're doing down there because it's the same board. We meet every month and they don't meet every month. They meet quarterly or yearly. Again, it all depends. But we do work closely together.
They have an archaeologist though, right?
Yes, they do. And thank God they do. They have 2 archaeologists now.
Wow.
Actually 3.
Whoa, matutsu that. So, Joe, what did you make though of the because we're talking about historic preservation, but even just like knowing the history of the recent burials, and there was another one Friday. Were you guys able to get any eyes on these sites, or?
You know, I wish that we were allowed to do that. All we know is really just the information that was released by the SHPO's office. There are times when we were allowed to go in. For instance, right before Magua became something of contention, we were in there and we gave some recommendations, and really those recommendations apparently were not taken. So again, it's just, we are just a consulting party, and we don't sign any documents, but we sit on the table to make sure that what they're doing is really exactly what they're doing.
So is what they're doing really exactly what they're doing?
What they agreed to do.
So are they
through
doing
the programmatic agreement?
Are they doing what they agreed to do, as per the programmatic agreement?
Most of the stuff that they're doing, they follow the agreements. There are times when things fall between the cracks, and that those things apparently need to be discussed and need to be addressed by the SHPO's office.
What about outside the fence line? What type of consulting do you guys do on, I guess, other projects?
Well, mainly we work with residents, homeowners. When homeowners go in to get their building permit fee, they have to go through the permit process, and one of the agency with the permit process is the SHPO's office. And if there is a cultural resource that is within that property, the SHPO would need to require them to do some type of survey. The Guam Preservation Trust can come in and provide, if not the expertise, but also provide the funding so that they can be able to conduct those surveys to fulfill the permit requirements so they can build their homes.
Were you guys consulted about the place name changes?
We weren't consulted, but we were asked to look for informants in the villages. If we knew anybody within that village that they can work with. I've known that I've provided informants for the Agana Heights village, and so the commission now would have to work that out with them.
Wow, you mentioned the most controversial one.
Yes.
Do you have an opinion on that either way, Joe?
Well, it's really up to the community there. You have three different specific areas that the community refers it to. You have Tutuhan, you have Taigigao, and you have, I think the other one is Paasan, or I'm not too sure whether I'm pronouncing it correct. But you have different areas in Agana Heights. And the people that don't live in Tutuhan are going to say, no, you shouldn't call this Tutuhan, because we don't live in Tutuhan. So there's got to be some compromise. There's got to be some type of way to identify the village, and the mayor himself said, let's just leave it at Agana Heights.
Yeah. So what do you?
Because that was brought up earlier before when there was an attempt to do that.
Right. What do you say the other
Way
one was?
earlier.
Taiguigan? What?
Hmm?
What was the other area?
Taigigao.
Oh, Taigigao. So yeah, I mean, is that going to be weird for you to have every other village in the indigenous name and then all the other Chamorro place names in place, but then you get Agana Heights? And man, I gotta say, former Governor Carl, did you see that, Sabrina?
What?
He commented on our Facebook.
On what?
On Facebook article about the interview we did with Mayor Paul McDonald, and he said his comment was something like, I don't know why they're bothering us, or I wish they wouldn't bother us. We're on board with our mayor. So you have one of Agana Heights' most famous or infamous, depending on your point of view, residents saying, oh, hell no. But you know what I mean, Joe? It's going to stick out on the map when you have like Humantac, Molesto, and Alahan. Agana Heights.
Yeah, that's the community. It really is. It should be driven by the community and not somebody else.
Right.
You know, and it goes down to the very fact that if we know our history, then we definitely know ourselves. And those guys in the Ganya Heights, they know their history.
Such
Do
an
you-
interesting perspective, Joe.
Do you have any history about the area where that burial was found?
On Andy South?
Yeah, in Andy South.
Andy South.
Yeah, because when we had the
You know-
shippo on, he was saying that they anticipate more burials to be found in that area,
And
not
the-
just that one.
We do, you know, it all depends. It all depends if we do have what you call the archaeological synthesis. It's a document that puts all of the archaeological surveys that were done in the past. It puts them all in one database, and we synthesize it to take a look and see what what the findings were in that area. I mean, just to do some study in that respect. When we look at if you want to look at fishing, for instance, what was fishing like way back then? Well, we found out that on the east side of Guam, the fish bones that we dug up were pelagic fish bones, as compared to the west side, there were reef fish bones. So we know that the fishermen from the east side were much more, because there are no reefs, there are rarely reefs on the east side.
Right.
A lot of their fishermen were used to pelagic deep sea fishing.
Right.
Whereas on the west side, there were more of a reef fishermen. So there you have evidence of the history of fishing on Guam.
That's so
Those are
fascinating because
those
so
are
many
the kinds of
people.
stuff that you can pull out from an archaeological dig, and the artifacts that you see, and you analyze it according to exactly what you want in on Guam, and relating to anything before anything was documented.
Yeah.
We have to rely on the archaeological studies for anything before the contact, before anything was documented. I mean, even the rock arts. We're studying the rock arts. We're looking at when were these rock arts produced, and we find out that they were produced 1,000 to 2,000 years ago. We wanted to know what constitutes the painting, the ink there. We find out a lot of natural, and they still exist today, natural plants that have that same coloring. And those things you can pull out and sort of take it to the next level, start using it today, rather than using, ink that is otherwise poisonous.
I think that's so interesting, Joe, what you said about the east side, because there's a lot of people that drown on the east side trying to do
Right.
what even our ancestors wouldn't do. So that's interesting. But yeah, going back to just a little fact like finding fish bones, digging up fish bones, and learning so much from it. Is that why it's so crucial for us to be able to have a seat at the table and study these burials that we're unearthing?
Yes, it is. It is. I really would like to get to know who my ancestors really are in that respect, rather than just relying on sort of hearsay. You have some documented work that were translated from the first folks that came in to Guam, that documented the people. We want to be able to use archaeological evidence as evidence to say, well, yes, it is true that these guys were saying this, because here's evidence that proves that.
Right.
Rather than just accepting what they say about us. It's really sad to start reading about our own people by other people writing it. What we want to do is we want to be able to say, well, this is what we came up with. And because of this, then we're writing it. We're flipping now the narrative. We're flipping the narrative to say this is who we are, written by ourselves, not written by somebody else.
So when you hear about, one of the burials, this is the firing range, the Taiulu, right? So when I was trying to research it, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you definitely would know, but there was only one other burial that they found like that in the CNMI. So when you hear about something like that on Guam, and you just knowing that there's just so much we could find out about our history from just being able to kind of study this instead of relying on the hearsay. I mean, what does that do to you to know that, man, there's this huge archaeological find that they just can't even see or look at or walk up to?
Well, when you look at burials, I remember sitting and discussing with the National Trust, on when we were working with Poggets, and they were saying, the whole Guam is a sacred site, because everywhere you go, you're going to find archaeological evidence of settlements all the way back to 3,000 years ago. If you when you talk about burials, that the really interesting one that I can remember right now is when the utilities were digging the road to lay the utilities down in Maleso, and they found a lot of burials on the road area, right in front of the convento. They keep digging and they keep finding a lot of burials in. Then we look at the documents, and the documents said that they had built the convento to commemorate as a memorial to the smallpox victims, the people that died of the smallpox. Well, guess what happened? They built the convento on top of the massive grave to memorialize them. So that is important. That is a story that the people in Maleso would like to hear. So they know their history, because those people could have been their ancestors. And so that really is our job at Guam Preservation Trust, is to be able to take all of these scientific evidence and translate them for our community, so that our community have that sense of who they are and how they connect with the rest of the world.
Thank you
other
for
than
coming.
Technology.
Thank you for coming to our TED Talk. Joe, I appreciate it. I got to get you on. Sorry, man. Sorry, Bree, because every time we start talking history, I just get lost in it. And I could go on for hours just asking you questions, Joe, but we're really out of time.
Okay. Well, we should have some time together.
We should, yes.
Go to Atantano and sit there at Atantano. And instead of videotaping Atantano, we can sit and talk about history.
Sounds great.
At Tentano, aren't they supposed to build an incinerator over there?
Not wow.
Not
on
while
their own
Joe has
property.
anything to say
No,
about it.
right though? At Tentano?
I think it was one of the.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
That's sealed.
That's the Guatali. That's on the top.
Right.
I thought it was
And they had
Tentano.
stopped that. We actually we were against that.
Right. Yeah. He's talking about.
But Atantano is Bree. You should come and visit that place.
Yeah, we went with Jason. It was me and Jason wore his Sunday shoes.
Right. And Sunday clothes, actually.
He did, yeah. And Lana, so we'll meet up then, Joe, and I'll bring mosquito coil.
Yeah.
Or we'll burn the coconut husk. More better.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe.
But it is a good place. Well, thank you so much.
Yes, yeah.
And we hope that our young people apply for this course, and that everyone really continue to support our heritage.
Amen. All right. Thank you, Joe.
It's that.
Take care.
Good stuff. Yep. We put that flyer up in the comments.